Welcome back to session 2, how to create a business model that works. So in session 1, I took you through how to create a value proposition canvas. I hope you found that reasonably straightforward. Remember, this is an organic process. So your first stab at this enables you to go out and test your thinking. Okay, but if you've got a fit between your customers, your customer segments, what they value with your offer, then you've got the basis of a value proposition that can work with your customers, and therefore something that you could wrap a business around. So moving into session 2, we're going to look at how to create a business model that works. And I guess the first question is, what's a business model? Now, one thing I suggest is Google this. You'll find lots of material online. You'll find videos that'll give you really, interesting perspectives on what they think a business model is. Fundamentally, though, the business model is the way that you as a business create value for your customers. That's what it captures. With the advent of spreadsheets, people were able to model this to the nth degree to show ins and outs and test different ways of thinking. And that's cool. Spreadsheets can help you to model that financially. But the business model that we're going to be looking at is, how do you organize yourself, your resources, your activities, relationships you have to deliver the value proposition to your customer. So keep that in mind. This is how you're going to organize yourself. And as we go into this, also keep in mind that this is full of assumptions, particularly if you are an early stage business. You're not trading yet. So you're going to be making a lot of assumptions about how your business model is going to work. And session 3, I'm going to introduce you to ideas that will enable you to go out and test your thinking. But it's okay to make assumptions at this stage. If you're an existing business, but you're moving, for instance, into a new market, or you're going to launch a new product or service, then you're going to be making assumptions about that introduction, that innovation that you're making. So the same is true for you. You have to, or I suggest you to anyway, have to go out and test your ideas. You don't want to risk the business by pursuing something that it just isn't going to work. So a business model is useful for you to understand firstly how you're currently creating value for your customers. And secondly, what if you add this new product or service, this new market, this new customer segment? What impact does that have on your current business model? So, useful tool to apply whatever stage of business you're at. So, we're going to be using this time the business model canvas, BMC. And this is another strategizer, a strategizer model. Hopefully you've already gone online, you've registered with strategizer.com, you can access free tools, and hopefully you've already downloaded or got the tools in front of you, the business model canvas materials, so that you can follow this in real time. I suggest again that you stop the video at certain points and work on your business model canvas, so you don't have to do it in one. It's good to stop and think. Anyway, first of all, here is a video I'm going to suggest you go and look at. That's a clip from an image from the video, strategizer.com video. You will find it here on Vimeo. This is a clickable link in your PDF. So I suggest if you want to do it now, go away, open your PDF, click on this. It will take you to Vimeo's video in your browser. Watch that, and I'll see you in a little bit. So hopefully that's helped you understand what the business model canvas is about. This is a version of what you should have in front of you. And I think the best way of helping you to understand how this works is to take you through a worked example. So let's introduce you to a creative agency. What might a business model canvas look like for a creative agency? So I'm going to present this as if this is real. And one of the things I'd like you to grasp as we go through this process is that the business model canvas is a great way of explaining your business to people who don't know it or don't know it well. So to explain this to an advisor that you'd like some advice from, to explain it to a customer because you'd like to get their buy-in, explain it to suppliers to explain where you're planning to go and develop a good relationship with them, and to explain it to team members, people you're bringing on board, whether they're employees or contractors, subcontractors. It's a great way of sharing with people the overarching structure of your business model, and how you create value. It's a great way of telling a story. So this creative agency, well, the customer segments at the beginning of the development of this business were public sector managers. How did this come about? Well, the individual who started this business had a background in the public sector, in tech, in social media, but like many people in that environment, as they were contracting out the services, they actually made him redundant. So, but it meant he had a real insight into public sector managers around the sort of work that he did, an understanding of them, and contacts within. So that was the reason why they were chosen as a segment, because of an understanding of the customer segment itself. What was the initial value proposition, and existing, because they continue to do this, providing digital marketing assistance to achieve goals. That was the value proposition. And you can see how simple these post-its are written. These are high level, providing digital marketing assistance to achieve goals. And let's be clear, this is the value proposition, the offer to that customer segment. So public sector managers, you're going to get assistance to achieve your goals, which sounds a pretty good offer, doesn't it? It's not about the features or the benefits of the product or service. It's actually a value proposition for you as a customer that helps you achieve your goals. Channels. Let's look at channels now. So one thing about channels is this is about how your customer segment prefers to consume, take advantage of, engage with this type of a product or service. So in this particular instance, the channels that I used in terms of offline are word of mouth. Now, the one thing about the founder of this business is that he knows that public sector managers do not like to be sold to directly. They don't take phone calls. Messages won't be returned. They don't like to deal directly with somebody that they don't know. So this is tough. What they do is that they ask colleagues within the same organisation or conferences, they meet others and they will get advice from them. So word of mouth is one of the channels they use to find out about and engage with this type of service, this type of business. On the other hand, they also go online. They use the web and social media to make judgments about businesses that are out there, to look at what they're up to gain insights into who's out there and what sort of service they're providing. So this business, the two channels that they use to provide access to their products and services to those customers is offline word of mouth and online web and social media. So that's about access to the product or service. What about customer relationships? Well, again, the one thing that the founder of this business knows is that public sector managers aren't going to deal via email or text or just deal with any old Tom, Dick and Harry. When they've got an issue with work that's being done, they want to speak directly to the person, a senior person who they can get answers from. So the relationships that this business has built with its customer segments is based on designated personal contact. And at the beginning, it was the founder. Everybody had a mobile number, email address. They could get 24/7 was the invitation. So you can talk to us about what we're doing for you, and we'll give you the right information and put your mind at ease if you've got some questions or concerns. So this side of the business model canvas is the offer side. Customer segment, value propositions, how the two are brought together, and that offer side creates a revenue stream. And in terms of the business, when it was started, it was basically a project fee. We'll do that piece of work for you for a fee. And there we go, offer side delivering revenue. On the infrastructure side, which is the top left chunk, what resources are used by the business to deliver the value proposition? And so in there, great description, isn't it? Social media consultant. So this was the founder. This was their skills to start with, and this is how they built experience and knowledge as a social media consultant. So that's the key resource to deliver those projects for the customer to meet their needs. The activities that were undertaken, certainly in the early stage of the business, were social media marketing campaigns. And that primarily was what the business was based around. Public sector managers wanted assistance to achieve their goals, and the business delivered social media marketing campaigns using consultants to help them meet their goals. The business recognized early on that one of the things it had to have was rock solid web hosting and links with cloud providers. So they are key partners supporting on the IT, the internet and bandwidth, online services. So they were crucial to the way the business developed. And you need to understand who are the key partners that are supporting your business. Plus the creative and IT communities. So one of the things that clients, the public sector managers are expecting is somebody who knows their stuff. Not just somebody who can put together a campaign, but actually somebody who knows what's happening in the market, knows what's happening tech-wise, products and services that are being developed, software, platforms that are going to keep delivering a service at the leading edge. So partners on the creative and IT communities are absolutely crucial for this business to keep ahead of the game. And that means they've got clear links with Adobe, other software suppliers. They get involved in training. They go to those conferences and develop their skills. So it's a key partnership for them to be able to place themselves in the leading edge. All of that leads to a cost structure based on mostly on people, staff salary. To start with, it was the founder plus. As business grew, staff salary included contractors, so bringing in others who could deliver the value proposition, deliver the services to customers, plus the IT infrastructure that's absolutely crucial. We're back to needing laptops and desktops, screens, software, networks. Okay, so crucial, and these are key elements to the cost structure. You won't see in there bookkeeper and stuff like that. That's not key to delivering this business model. Okay, so the other aspect that was a heavy cost really from the beginning was seminars and conferences. And why was that? Well, to be able to develop that offline word of mouth, the founder had to go where his customers were, and the place to find them was at seminars and conferences. So public sector conferences, tech conferences, where those public sector managers would congregate. And so this was, if you like, an investment in that channel, as well as a way of keeping up with the creative and IT communities, and keeping that partnership running. So a significant cost, but all aimed at generating those that word of mouth activity, and therefore more business. Okay, so that was initially. How did the business model change over time? Well, for this business, as they got a reputation, they got approaches from SMEs who could see that they were providing a good service to the public sector managers, and they were saying, can you do the same for us? And initially there was a reluctance to move into this new segment, but over time, 12, 18 months in, it was recognised that there was a real market out there. The reputation was helping them establish the relationships, and so they added a new value proposition and some extra services, is based around extra services, because the SME managers, what they were interested in was performance. They wanted to reach more people, get them into their sales pipeline, and actually generate more sales, more revenue. So they needed something different, and that was, in terms of being able to deliver that was supported by the addition of design and branding services, and this initially was by subcontracting more, and then bringing in extra employees, more staff members employed at the agency, and their designers. So this is extending the offer to SME managers, and also extending the offer to the public sector managers. So that growth also came with a change in the revenue streams, because now they got people who were prepared to sign up to a retainer, so 6 and 12 month contracts, and they were paying a retainer to have these services delivered. So a change in the way that the revenue streams worked. In the fullness of time, further activities were undertaken. Mobile app development, web and back-end developers were brought in, again, to add value to the proposition to those particular customer segments. So there we go. You can see there's not a lot of detail on there. I've demonstrated this development over time for those of you who have existing businesses, to see how you potentially would add or model bringing in new services. But it's to show that this tells a story over time. There is an evolution using this process. Okay, so that's me talking through an example. Let's get into your own activity. So we've walked through it. We've seen the building blocks. I now want to just walk you through key questions you might ask as you put together your business model canvas for the first time. There's a number of practices which we are regarded as best practices. I'm going to share with you first. You've already seen evidence in the example. Only put on what's relevant to telling the big picture strategic story. Don't put loads of detail on there. If you want to capture your thinking, do it on a separate sheet of paper. But just capture at a high level only what's needed to be able to tell this story. A great idea is to use images on your sticky notes, images and words, to allow for a quicker understanding of your business model. And that's not only for you, but it's for other stakeholders that you might work with. You might like to use color coding to relate building blocks. As you saw in the different stages that I used in the example, I used different colors. So, taking that on board, let's look then at the 9 elements. First one, the place I suggest you always start is with the customer segment, because this is the focus. This is the place to lock down your thinking to start with. Who are we creating this value for? And there might be questions you ask yourself, particularly if you're early stage. Is this mass market, niche? So think about that customer segment. If you haven't done the value proposition canvas, this is where you need to drill into understanding who that customer is. In terms of segments, you should do separate segments. And they represent separate segments if they need or justify their needs, require and justify a distinct offer. If there's a value proposition offer, multiple value proposition offers, then there will be multiple customer segments. Perhaps they're reached through different distribution channels, or they require different types of relationships. You might have segments that deliver substantially different profit levels. You've got a wholesale approach and a retail approach. They will deliver different profit levels, and they will be different segments. Or you might see that they're willing to pay for different aspects of the offer. In terms of value proposition, this is where you capture the value you deliver to the customer. And again, if you haven't done the value proposition canvas, what you're drilling into, what of your customers' problems are you helping to solve? Which needs are you satisfying? So capture that if you can. Now, you'll recall back to the example, it was framed in terms of meeting the customer's needs, providing them with an offer. So think about that. It's not just about stating we've got a great product and it has these features and benefits. That's not, in terms of customer, phrased in a way that's particularly useful or even interesting. Through which channels do our customer segments want to be reached? Think about that. It's about them. It's not about what you want to do, because you might actually not know what the most appropriate route to reach them is. When you've done your research, you'll find that the best route to approaching them is how they want to be reached. Where do they go and look for products and services like you? Because if you don't go there, you won't find them. So think about that. What channels are you going to use? And in terms of choices for channels, think about these different phases. Because the customer, if they want, how are you going to raise awareness about your company's products and services? Well, you need to do it where they are. And for some of them, a lot of people now, it's online. It's a Facebook group, or it's a LinkedIn group, or it's another platform where products and services in that space are highlighted, are showcased. So awareness, you need to be where they are. Then you need to consider, in terms of the channel, how are you going to help customers evaluate the product or service, the value proposition? Think about this. If you are selling a product wholly online, the customer has got to make a choice. I've seen a picture of it. But is that sufficient for me to evaluate? Does that mean that the quality, the service that they describe, am I going to achieve that if I do go ahead and place the order? We like to evaluate. Think about how Amazon does it. Amazon does it with pictures, with design specification, and then they have the feedback. They capture from people factors, feedback about the product itself in action, and that's how we judge whether we're going to make that decision. How are people going to evaluate your product, your value proposition? If you're selling retail, someone's going to buy your stuff retail, then they can come in and they can look at it and feel it, and that's how they evaluate whether they want to buy it or not. Then you've got to think about how they're going to purchase it. Again, back to the online. If you're just selling online, have you got your own store? Are you going through eBay? Are you going through Amazon? Or indeed, are they going to buy physically in a store, in a retailer that you've sold to? Or are you selling to a wholesaler, which is a whole different kettle of fish? If you're selling to a wholesaler, then awareness and evaluation to a wholesaler might involve you in direct sales. The type of product you sell in volume, you have to find out who buys this stuff and contact them directly. So these are the channel phases that you need to consider, and it comes back to who your customer segment is. So deliver a value proposition to customers. This does relate to, for instance, physical products, storage and distribution. How are you going to deliver that? If it's an online product, a service that they can subscribe to, are you delivering it via video? Do they download a PDF? You need to consider all of those elements in terms of your choices for channels. Also need to consider how you're going to provide support after a customer has bought. That's crucial. And this is support, again, consider Amazon. Amazon, it's all built into an automated system where you can get a long way down the line in terms of communication to get support without ever dealing with a person. They're doing, multiple units, huge volumes, and they want to minimize the number of people involved in post-purchase customer support so they can keep their costs low. For you, after sales might be someone on the end of a phone, a mobile number or a telephone number, because this is a high value product you're selling. So after sales is absolutely crucial. So you need to consider, what does our customer expect and how am I going to provide it? So that's channels. Customer relationships, and again, just think about the terminology of this. What type of relationship does each of our customer segments expect us to establish and maintain with them? What type of relationship does each of our customer segments expect us to establish and maintain with them? So consider this. Customer relationships could be we provide you with direct access to an individual who you can call at any time to support you with questions about your service or your product. Imagine the cost of doing that. So we're talking now high value products or services where absolutely providing someone on the end of a telephone is crucial for the customer to feel comfortable that you're looking after them. So, consider this. If you're selling through an online store, eBay or Amazon or Etsy or something like that, you don't want to be on the phone to people where they just want to return an item or, so you would automate, you would do this digitally as much as possible. So this is online, this is a chat line or via email. The last thing you want to do is spend a lot of time looking after that customer. But again, it's got to be what the customer expects. Me, from Amazon, I expect to be able to click on something, fill in a form, hit send, knowing that the Amazon system is going to contact the supplier and they're going to resolve that query on my behalf. And it generally works. And that's okay. That's all I expect from them. I don't expect a phone call to say, oh, Steve, yeah, we've got your request for return. We'll work on that. It's not necessary. So think about your customer relationships. What do you need to do? But you might consider this as well, that those customer relationships may be an opportunity for you. Think about customer acquisition, how you acquire customers. If you're known to be an organization that is available on the end of a phone, you can have a chat with somebody, you'll answer questions, then that could help you acquire new customers, compared to an organization where you send a text or an email and you wait for them to get back to you via text or email. So again, if you're high value product or service, the customer might expect to be able to call you up and speak to a human being, which is a good thing if it helps you to convert inquiries into sales. So that customer relationship now is not just a cost, it could be part of the sales function. And consider, what would you put in place to retain customers? If it's selling widgets and it's churning them out through your website in volume via orders and everything's automated, that's one thing. What if it's retaining customers because it's a really high value weekly, monthly, quarterly sale? You don't want them to go to a competitor. You want them to come back and build a relationship with you. So you now consider, what do I need to put in place to retain customers? And again, if these are products or services that are £1,000 or £5,000 a go each time they order, then you might invest significantly in having someone on the end of a line to talk to customers when they want to talk about the next order, what they might be interested to. Okay. And finally, the idea that the customer relationships are a channel for you to upsell. So this is again where you might build in more than just an automated response. Thank you for your order. Thank you for your request for return. But your relationship is one where you customize and make your responses bespoke. You offer them special deals and you invest in a system that enables you to upsell to your customers through this relationship that you're building. All of those, they are an added investment, but they're done on the basis that you are going to acquire, retain, and upsell to customers, and it's part of your model. So think about that. All of that delivers your revenue streams. So in here, what are your customers paying? What's the method that they are using? Ask questions about this as you consider this. If it's a product sale, or is it a rental? Are they leasing? Are they subscribing? Identify how your revenue is going to come in from your customers. Because there's different types of revenue streams. Transaction revenues, some of those that I talked about, project fees, they're one-offs, they're one-time customer payments. What is more attractive, and some customers will enjoy this as well, is the idea of recurring revenues. These are ongoing payments. Okay, so there's two different ways that you can break this down, however you describe the actual revenue or fee that you're receiving. Okay, what's delivering these value propositions? Well, on the infrastructure side, now key resources, and if you consider the value proposition, the distribution channels, the customer relationships, the revenue streams, what resources do they require to manage those? And this is where you identify key resources, not all of them. What are the key ones that make this model work? Okay, and these resources can be physical, so their offices, their machinery, manufacturing, equipment, or they're financial, the resources, if your business is to do with finance, or your method of generating a revenue is some form of a product, a financial product, so they're leasing, or their acquisition model requires you having resources in place to finance their purchase. But then, of course, you've got intellectual. Key resources can be intellectual. You've got a patent. And then there are the human resources. And for many of you smaller organisations, service-based organisations, human resources are going to be the key ones. You've got expertise. You've got knowledge, skills that your people are delivering, and that they are the key resources for the business model to be delivered. Okay, so those resources, you can own them, or you lease them, or your partners, your key partners are providing them. Still paying for them, but this is part of your arrangements with partners. So just consider, what resources do you need to deliver that value proposition, distribution channels? You need to identify the key ones. And those resources are driving these key activities. And again, the activities are related to the value proposition, distribution channels, customer relationships, revenue streams, the key activities. What are you actually doing? You're making something, or you're providing a service. Okay, so identify those in simple terms. Key partners are often related to key suppliers, but they're important elements. Without them, you couldn't deliver your value proposition. And so identify those who are crucial to delivering your value proposition. And just make sure these relate to, if resources that you are saying are key to your business are being supplied not from within the organisation but by a supplier key partner, identify them here. These are the most important costs. So the cost structure should relate to key resources, key activities, the relationships you have with key partners and suppliers. And the cost structure also comes from the customer relationship, how you deliver that, and the channels, the distribution. So in there, identify the key costs. Don't put in petty cash for milk, for your tea. That's not a key cost. It's not something you need to identify. If you have to make something or store something, and that's fundamentally what you're doing, then that should go into your key cost, your cost structure. Okay, so we've covered the 9 elements. So we've covered all of the 9 elements now. And hopefully you've got a sense of how they fit together. As you stand back from yours, your first stab at this, does it make sense? Can you see gaps in the story, as it were? Because you might need to go and revisit it. But remember, this first stab, given that this evolves, this is how you this is where you provide yourself with a platform for now thinking about and going testing your thinking. Because as you go out and you validate your ideas, validate your assumptions, you will get a better understanding of how that model is going to fit together. Okay. What you ought to be able to recognize is where the blocks reinforce each other and describe the business model mechanics. As I said, if you identify gaps, you think, oh, how does that work then? Or is this activity coming out of thin air? Or do I need a resource that's going to do it? Am I buying that in? Is that a key partner role? So use it to diagnose whether this all fits together. Because if you identify there are orphan elements, this activity, well, nobody to deliver that doesn't work, does it? Because that's key. So check the connections. Check the connections. And fundamentally, and I mean this really seriously, don't fall in love with your first idea. When you've put this together, this is the start of articulating how you think, your best guess at how your business model works. And when you go out and you do your testing and you do your thinking, you have your conversations, you take it and show it to an advisor and talk them through the story, they're going to ask you questions where you're going to go, oh yeah, no, that's not going to work, is it? And you're going to do more research and you're going to adjust your business model to account for new information, challenges, reality, which means you have to give up that first model and let it evolve till it gets to a point where it makes sense and it works. Okay, so that's session 2. I suggest you consider your model, go and talk to people, bounce ideas off them, whether it's your colleagues, partners, family members, somebody who's interested in the business, and just see how the story fits together. See if they can identify gaps or challenges in your thinking. Okay, so that's the end of session 2. Look forward to seeing you in session 3. Thank you very much.